While Qatar's gift to the president of a jumbo jet is making all the headlines, the U.S. just inked an airplane deal. Qatar Airways will buy 160 jets from Boeing. That deal valued at more than $200 billion. It was signed while the president arrived in Doha, Qatar today.
That deal with Boeing comes as the president may accept the gift of an airplane from Qatar that's said to be a replacement for Air Force One. Critics are raising ethical and security concerns over this. Let's go deeper into this in a series of high-profile meetings underway by turning to former Pentagon Middle East advisor Jasmine El-Gamal. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. House Speaker Mike Johnson says the plane is not a gift to the president. It's a gift to the United States. He notes other nations give gifts all the time. Is there a problem with the plane?
Well, look, I mean, I worked at the Pentagon for 8 years, and I can tell you that no one ever received a gift like that. But I think it's really more of there are two sets of concerns that I see here, right? One is the concern that people are bringing up about whether President Trump would be somehow beholden to the Qataris because he received such a gift. I don't think that's the case. President Trump doesn't seem to be beholden to anyone really except his own agenda and what he wants to do. I think the greater concern, and the one that I actually think is more valid, is the U.S. taxpayer money that's going to be required to be spent to re-outfit this plane into Air Force One. And then once that's over, to spend more U.S. taxpayer money to re-outfit it back into a normal plane. I think that's really the bigger problem here.
You know, let's take a bit of a broader view here. U.S. relations with Qatar have come a very long way since 2017, when Mr. Trump accused Qatar of harboring terrorism. Can you update the relationship between the two countries now?
The two countries have a pretty productive working relationship, I think. Qatar has been a huge player in the negotiations over the last year and a half between Israel and Hamas. It has relationships with Hamas, obviously, that it does come under criticism for, because you do have several Hamas leaders who are headquartered in Qatar. But the story goes a bit deeper than that. The governments of the U.S. and Israel, including the Biden administration, were not only well aware that Qatar had these ties and relationships with Hamas figures, they also encouraged them in order to maintain a sort of channel to Hamas, so that when these negotiations did need to happen, that you would have someone that was able to talk to Hamas and hold sway over them. Qatar has generally played this role in several of these conflicts. It mediated deals between the Taliban and the U.S. and which resulted in the release of U.S. soldiers that were caught in Afghanistan. So Qatar is a tiny, tiny country, and the way it tries to punch above its weight is to position itself as this kind of mediator that has access to unsavory actors, and to try to use that access when necessary in order to strike these sort of deals.
What are you watching for in these meetings?
I'm looking at a general change and shift in direction between the relationship between the U.S. and the Middle East. I think what we're seeing right now, for the first time in a really, really long time, possibly ever, most of the big players in the Middle East getting on the same page that Donald Trump happens to be on, which is enough war, enough conflict, let's get deals done, let's get peace on the table, and let's move forward in a way that's peaceful and prosperous for both peoples, both the people and the leaders of the Middle East and the U.S. as well.
Have you seen anything that surprised you so far?
I was a bit surprised by the way Donald Trump described the Syrian President, Ahmed al-Shara, given his past. I mean, I think it was a very positive thing for the sanctions on Syria to be lifted, because that definitely helps the Syrian people as a whole turn a new page in their history. But he did describe him in ways that were quite, personal. He called him a beautiful man and a fighter and things like that, which maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, because we have seen President Trump talk like that before. But I think it's all on a serious note, in a positive direction, between the mediation that the Gulf states are involved in, whether it's with Israel and Hamas, Ukraine and Russia, on Syria. I think we're seeing all of the major players now coming together on the same page to move forward towards a better time for the region and in the relationship between the U.S. and the region as well.
All right, a small part of a larger conversation. We appreciate your time. Jasmine El-Gamal, former Pentagon Middle East advisor. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.